Low play drum beat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scavern, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I can't take Boston at minus 110. I don't see the value in it, right? You're getting minus money. If Boston were to turn around and become even money or a plus 105 or plus 110, yeah, I can understand you want to take that. So because of the value at 5.5 to 1, I got to like the Knicks and their chances of coming out of the East.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's is offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire. Only on Sport.
Welcome in. It is Game Time Decisions live with you on SportsGrid for a Tuesday night where we are jam-packed with action to get in the mix with. Yesterday we had some college, we had some NBA, we had the Luka debut, which certainly felt big time, but we were still right on the heels of Super Bowl 59, the Philadelphia Eagles winning that Super Bowl, and I think that took up a lot of our show, and it'll be relevant in our show today. That's the power of the Super Bowl. It doesn't run away after just 1 day, 2 days. The Eagles have a parade on Friday, right? This will extend into the weekend. That's the power of the National Football League. Plus, the reigning Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles just lost their offensive coordinator. Kellen Moore announced today officially becomes the New Orleans Saints' new head coach. What that means for New Orleans, arguably more important, what that means for Philadelphia and the Super Bowl favorites for next season. So we will be talking football. We'll talk a little bit about the Luka Doncic debut last night. The takeaways, the Lakers in the very recent news, though not monstrous news, they are bringing in Alex Len to try and shore up that front court to some degree. They just need more options, more bodies. They have them. The main event, though, of our show tonight, our biggest item is really just this plentiful college basketball board, one of the best of this season. I feel as if college basketball has had, for the most part, done an awesome job stepping up when you need it to. Man, I need a great slate. Boom, here's a great college hoop slate. Tonight, you've got countless ranked teams in action. You have good non-ranked games that you can get involved with as well. I landed on 8 games, 2 picks stand out amongst the rest. A couple of sides in here. There's only 1 prop that made the card, though I considered some others, so we'll talk about those options. But let's get right into it. As we did just get another fresh new AP poll, Auburn losing at home to Florida, keep the number 1 spot. That's what happens when Auburn's had the caliber of season that they've had. That was only their 2nd loss this season, incredibly. And Duke losing to Clemson played a big factor in that, though it was close. Alabama's crept up now to number 2. Florida and Tennessee also did receive some first-place votes. We'll start it off with Auburn. One of my favorites on the card tonight is their team total over 83.5. This checks in at a minus 106 number. If Vanderbilt is going to strike an upset here, they're going to have to get red hot, because Auburn is still the number one offense in college basketball, and I think we're getting a little bit of a dip here on their team total tonight when you consider the fact that the Gators at home kept Auburn in check somewhat relatively. You know, and I understand being at home is valuable, but Auburn in the game against Florida had a higher team total than this 83.5 that we see tonight. The Gators are all of a sudden now finding themselves with a top 10 defense in college basketball. Vanderbilt's outside of the top 70. Plus, Vanderbilt plays comfortably quicker now than Florida does. So I'll sacrifice home court advantage for getting a much better number. I mean, even when you compare this to the Oklahoma game that we just saw Auburn play, where they went out there, scored 98 points. Again, I understand at home. How about Ole Miss? They scored 92 points. Those, I think, are much tougher challenges than what they'll see tonight in Vanderbilt. Let me get the Tigers team total over at 83.5. Speaking of Florida, moving line throughout the day. It has certainly moved my direction. At minus 102, I played Mississippi State's money line. That number was on DK. As I look here now, we've certainly moved a lot. I want to try and get an idea on what is the cheapest number you could get involved with this money line right now. Minus 125 looks to be still out there and available. Miss State has flipped to the favorite anywhere you look, and obviously that is something that I agree with here. Look, for Florida, they are coming off of this unbelievable victory, and make no bones about it, it is probably the best victory anybody has in college all year. The only losses that Auburn has is that at home to Florida and then at Duke, when you consider how good Duke is, right? But when I look at the road performances for the Gators, that was more the outlier. Lost at Kentucky, didn't cover at Arkansas, or did not cover at South Carolina, only winning by 1. Smashed at Tennessee. Bit of a letdown spot here. We know the value of home court advantage. Miss State sure could use a good result here. I think they get a great result here and beat the Florida Gators. DePaul is catching 17.5 tonight against Marquette. I'm taking the 17.5. Now, it's not my favorite play we've ever seen, but I think the MO is a little bit. Marquette's now taken 3 straight losses. This was a team who started 9-1 in Big East play and now sit 9-4. They lost to Connecticut. They lost to St. John's. They lost to Creighton. They lost to all the best teams within the Big East, which, would include themselves. So there is definitely a level of, all right, we got to snap out of this. But playing DePaul, I think Marquette would be far more dangerous if tonight they were playing a Georgetown or Xavier, even a Providence, right? Middle of the pack, laying 9.5, and they extend on a team like that. Let's lock in, let's destroy. Marquette knows they don't need their best game tonight to beat DePaul. They're going to beat DePaul. I don't think they beat them by 18 or better, so I took those points tonight. My second favorite, or one of the two favorites, the Auburn team total, and then it's a Texas team total. Again, playing the new number 2 in college, over 80.5. I considered props here. Trey Johnson or Arthur Kaluma's points props were both considerations for me. 13.5 on Kaluma, 20.5 on Trey Johnson. Both of those guys are in some bounce-back spots. The more you look at it, man, that's where Texas is. Texas has themselves a nice opportunity tonight offensively as they've continued to, elevate their offensive ranking. Right now, 35th in the country against Alabama, who is still just such a unique basketball team. The third best offense in the country is the fastest team in college basketball. I just want to read to people on KenPom where the teams who rank top 10 in tempo sit in offensive rating. Bama, first in tempo. Third, South Dakota, second, 114th. Cal Poly, 180. New Mexico, 70. Western Kentucky, 208. Indiana State, 165. I'm not going to keep going. You get the point here? But Arkansas Pine Bluffs, the 10th fastest team in the country. They're 339th in offensive rating. Nobody is playing this fast, this well. That's what Alabama is. If you want to beat Bama, you got to hang about 90 on them. But it gets these teams out and running. There's no comp. There's the second fastest team in the SEC is Kentucky, and they're running at about a top 30 tempo, top 35. And again, Kentucky's having a heck of a year because they're the second best offense in the country. All right? We'll talk about Kentucky, Tennessee. But, man, to see what Alabama's doing, and I'm heaping praise on them. But I think Texas tonight in that environment, boom, 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 up and down the court they go. We're going to start to see things shine. That's half. All right? We're not going to force anything. We're not going to rush anything. It is a college basketball night here on this Tuesday. We're going to talk to Colby Dant, get some college picks from him. We will, though, be zoning in on things around the National Football League, right? We got to take 5 for you tonight, top 5 NFL offseason questions, and these will be impacting the market. A lot more to get to. We go back to the College Board next on Game Time Decisions.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets and when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back with you right here on Game Time Decisions, going through tonight's college basketball card. We've gone through half of it in case you're just tuning in. Auburn team total over 83.5. Texas team total over 80.5. Those are my two favorite bets tonight. I'm on that Mid-State money line at minus 102. It has moved a lot. It looks like the best number in the market is minus 125 on those Bulldogs. Took the Paul plus 17.5 against Marquette. Took an under in Michigan State, Indiana. Sparty at home, and it's going to be a different kind of game for them, I think. So they went out west, lost 2 to both USC and UCLA, lower scoring games. They come home against Oregon, and it's almost as if they thought they'd just be able to kind of, we're back home, things will be fine. They got rocked early. They gave up 50 first-half points to the Ducks. They had to respond with 50 second-half points of their own. I think this looks much different. I think their defense is engaged from the word go. You look at this total tonight, 148.5, nearly a mirror image to what we saw when Michigan State just played Oregon, except Oregon's much more of an over team to me than Indiana. So I like what I'm getting tonight on that 148.5 under the number. The one player prop I'm involved with, Hunter Dickinson, 9+ rebounds. It is kind of taking a chance here on a number that looks to kind of be dropping right now, but Hunter Dickinson went through this number in nearly every single game to start, kind of Big 12 play, some of the out-of-conference stuff where they're playing Missouri and NC State. And he has since now fallen short in a few games. He had a window where he had 8 boards, 9, 8, 7, 5. So there's a lot of unders there, but he's landing 8.5 of those. Last 2 games landed 9 exactly. Tonight they play a Colorado team not very good offensively, going to be up against it. I worry less about the blowout stuff because, they blew out Iowa State, right? He still played 33 minutes. Kyle's a little bit different at times where you still let your guys get 30-plus minutes. I think going up against CU, Kansas, who needs it, should get a good performance out of their lead dog and Hunter Dickinson. Let's get 9+ boards there for a player prop at -115. And then non-ranked action, but still some big games. Firstly, in the Big 12, I got a team total over tonight on BYU. That number checking in at 67.5, -105 to the over there on the Cougars. They just played Cincinnati, and the team total was closer, around 70.5, 71. Now, Cincinnati is about the same West Virginia defensively, a little bit slower. I understand that. But I don't think this number should, 1, be dropping that much. I think, 2, BYU, who has now played 3 really, really tough two really tough defensive opponents in a row in Arizona and Cincinnati, could certainly snap out of it here against West Virginia. I'm giving the Mountaineers some respect with them being at home, short line. But I like that BYU offense to, at minimum, get the job done. And then we're going to lay a 6.5 spot here with Illinois in their game against UCLA. I think this number as well has bounced around a little bit throughout the day. There should still be, and I'll double check right now for people. You still have 6.5s in those markets, some 7s, some 7.5s here. But this is a really nice Illini spot. I know UCLA has turned it around since Mick Cronin lost his mind. Right, they had lost 4 straight games in 5 out of 6. Well, where did this flip? They bring Iowa and Wisconsin into their building. They get 2 great wins. Awesome. Then they go to UW and USC and win those basketball games. Stay out west. Then they bring in Oregon, Michigan State, Penn State to win. Okay, great. So what does that mean? They haven't traveled east since when? They were losing games to Rutgers. They were losing badly to Maryland. They were getting rolled up by Nebraska. That's what it's looked like. We wondered when the Big Ten was bringing in all these West Coast teams what it would look like. I thought back to the college football season it would be a big deal. Wasn't the biggest talking point, right? Throughout this college basketball season, there's moments where it feels relevant. For UCLA, it feels most relevant. They feel like an East Coast fade. That's what they are tonight. I'm going to lay those 6.5 points. So that's where the card is. Now, there are some big games that I didn't play. And I could certainly get you some picks on the board. Some numbers moved against me. I'm going to give you some leans, some thoughts, okay? We're going to get to a point now where college is going to become such a focal point. When we get 15 verse 5, 20 verse 7, we're going to get some action on the board there, okay? But I want to talk through these games that we didn't hit yet. Kentucky, Tennessee. Vols being favored at Kentucky. Little disrespectful, if we're honest. I understand what kind of some of those advanced numbers say, but a shorthanded Kentucky team went to Tennessee, caught double digits, and won the game outright. Now, I was interested in the under in this game. It just kept dropping so much. Started at 149.5. I was going to play the 148.5. By the time I was ready to click, we were down to 146 and a hook. I do think this would be an under game. I think it's a decent spot for Tennessee. Because I think that Kentucky kind of, all right, we caught our breath. we beat South Carolina. We beat them comfortably, right? That's what they're thinking. I think Tennessee might come in with a real chip on their shoulder. But some of the better, more impressive Tennessee games are these rock fight unders. So I would look under in that game. I'm not on it, though, as we talk about Kentucky, Tennessee. Michigan, Purdue, really fascinating game. Would lean under on the Braden Smith assist prop, but the 7.5 minus 125, I didn't think it was a fair number at all. I should be getting 7.5 under at a plus price, maybe an expensive 8.5 if it comes to it. I'll re-rack and circle back and see if we're getting that. I think kind of correlated, and again, it's college, so it's still a limited menu, but I'd love some alt unders, like an alt under 20.5, Trey Kaufman-Wren, alt under Braden Smith, 10.5 dimes, parlay, like that. I know it's correlated. That would be interesting to me. I think those numbers certainly suggest I lean Michigan in this game. I do have the Purdue Final Four ticket, so I love seeing Purdue win games, and this is a big one here tonight. These are two teams that are two of the two-loss teams in Big Ten play. So this is really important for that race. Purdue very recently smashed Michigan when they met up, and that was at home. We'll see how it looks. Other ranked games, just some quick thoughts. UCF, Iowa State. Cyclones' offense has been slipping. How does it look against this atrocious UCF team? K-State looks like a clear K-State spot with how good they've been playing. The fact that they're a 3.5-point dog feels like it speaks volumes. A&M, 8.5-point favorites to Georgia. And then we've got Creighton laying 3.5 tonight to UConn. Continue to hit the board with you. We've got a lot going on. It's Game Time Decisions.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions. We are live on SportsGrid with you on this Tuesday night. Kevin Walsh here. A lot of great stuff for us to get involved with as the night carries on. We haven't talked any NBA card just yet. Let's get some of the options that you can find over on Sports Million Pick'em with the help from Joe Madden and Tom Vecchio.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. It's time to jump into some Sports Millions Pick'ems. Now, Tom, we got a great slate of games out there in the NBA. Where are you going to go for your pick?
Yeah, we are approaching the All-Star break for NBA, but let's close it out with some basketball. I'm turning to Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks, higher than 27.5 points. They are coming off a huge blowout loss the other night to the Celtics, and Brunson was quoted after the game as saying that that was unacceptable from the Knicks. So let's turn to him. He's their primary scorer going up against the Pacers tonight. This season, the Pacers, they're around 25.2 points per game to opposing point guards. That's the 9th worst in the league. It's not exactly at 27, but Brunson is their primary scorer. We get a little bit of revenge, which I always like to add in this narrative, dating back to last year's playoffs. Brunson obviously ended that series. He was banged up, didn't get to close it out. So add all these things together, and I think Brunson comes out strong. Will it be the exact 36 points he had the other night against the Celtics? But no, he's in a great spot to push over 27.5 points.
It definitely sounds like you're in with a winner there with Jalen Brunson. I'm going to turn to the matchup between the Toronto Raptors and the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, I have Scotty Barnes circled in this one. His point seems a little high, but I do think he can go higher than 20.5 points in this game, and I will take him to that. The last time he faced the 76ers, we did see the Raptors be able to get the win, winning back in October, 115-107. We saw in that game Scotty Barnes just absolutely go off. 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists out there on the court. Now, when we look at him overall on the season, he is averaging right on 19.9 points per game. But then when we break it down to how he's been doing on the road, actually ticks up a little. We're seeing him averaging 20.8 points per game out there on the road. I do think with the 76ers defense just being a shaky on the season, defensive rating of 117.2, we're going to see Scotty Barnes be able to do enough in this game to be able to go higher than 20.5 points tonight. So I'll lock in Scotty Barnes higher than 20.5 points.
So we have some NBA. Maybe we'll add in some college basketball as we close out the week since the NBA is hitting the All-Star break. Should be a good time to be a sports fan.
It absolutely should be. You guys make sure you join us back here tomorrow for some more NBA sports pick'ems.
All right, really appreciate both Tom and Joe helping us out there. Some action involving Brunson and Barnes. If you're getting involved on the NBA side of things, lighter card on the NBA board tonight. Philadelphia hosting Toronto. The Pacers are going to be hosting the New York Knicks. It's Bulls Pistons in Chicago. And then your late night option there is Phoenix and Memphis. What an odd season this has all of a sudden become for the Phoenix Suns. You think about the Western Conference, and it is a deep conference. And you have teams in front of Phoenix all making different moves, including Golden State bringing in Jimmy Butler. They're off to a great start with that marriage. Phoenix is at the moment, forget the play-in, they're not inside the top 10. And this was a team that seemingly was ready to trade Kevin Durant at the All-Star break. And you have to wonder then, what are you getting out of KD moving forward on a nightly basis? Are you comfortable betting this guy's props? And I know KD's, I just want to play, I just want to do my thing. We'll see, man. We'll see. Let me just get you involved. We'll talk some college stuff, but quickly, some of the other options you can find over on Sports Million Pick'ems.
Enjoy Sports Millions Pick'ems, but hate making the picks yourself? Well, Sports Millions has you covered. Head on over and play Sports Millions Blitz'em right now and let the computer do the work. Go to sportsmillions.com/blitz'em to be able to win big prizes without having to make a single pick yourself. That's sportsmillions.com/blitz'em.
All right, back with you right here. You will also notice Sports Million Pick'em, college basketball player props, right? That you can get that Trey Kaufman-Renn under points or lower, 19.5. What about Caleb Love? Caleb Love and his options that you can find higher or lower, 17.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, higher or lower, 2.5 made threes. Caleb Love is having a very bizarre season, I would say, where he's Arizona's lead guy. The efficiency is still atrocious, but he gets a lot of shots. We'll see how they look tonight against K-State. We're taking a quick break. We'll be right back here on SportsGrid.
slow play drumbeat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scover and when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I can't take Boston at minus 110. I don't see the value in it, right? You're getting minus money. If Boston were to turn around and become even money or plus 105 or plus 110, yeah, I can understand you want to take that. So because of the value at 5.5 to 1, I got to like the Knicks and their chances of coming out of the East.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire. Only on Sport.
Back with you right here. It is Game Time Decisions. We've gone through your college basketball card tonight. We will, again, with Colby Dant joining the show, we'll go through what is right now an 8-pick card for me here on this Tuesday night. But I think it gives us an opportunity to just walk back a little bit, right? And let's talk a little football. Let's talk a little bit about the fallout from the Super Bowl and what it means for the markets. We're going to do our top 5 questions of the NFL offseason, kind of with an eye on the market, what can move some things and what's going to be relevant there. But you also have, when it comes to that game between Philadelphia and Kansas City, I think one thing that stood out for me, and I'm going to take this and then we're going to get into the NBA, is by the time we were at the game, by the time everybody had put their picks on the board. I'm not talking props, I'm not talking total, I'm talking about who was going to win that game. It felt as if even the Chiefs backers conceded the Eagles had a much better roster. And I think that's noteworthy because it kind of gets into what was bothering me so much throughout this season. And it was incredible that it was all married by the Eagles playing the Chiefs because these two teams were representative of it. Incredible with it, seeing Hurts outplay Pat Mahomes so significantly within this football game. And on the Philadelphia side, right, what you saw was people struggling with the Eagles not winning in the way that they were comfortable with. The reality is, people want things to be easy. That's what they want, right? And again, I'm sure many of you now, in hindsight, are laughing that I am still victory lapping, picking the best team in football to win the Super Bowl, but don't lie to yourself. Who was the first to tell you this was clearly the best team in football? You know the answer, right? You only agreed once the game was over that there was a massive gap here between the Eagles and Kansas City. But the people couldn't believe when they were watching Philly that they were the best team in football because they didn't get to go, Well, look at their quarterback. I mean, clearly, right? During the year, it wasn't that everybody agreed it was Kansas City, right? But so often, people will, oh, well, Buffalo has Josh Allen or Baltimore has Lamar. And you might say, well, what about Goff? Well, because people will pick Detroit. Yeah, but Goff had gaudy numbers, right? At least people could point to the statistics. Goff was more of an MVP candidate than Jalen Hurts. Heck, Sam Darnold, people were like, oh, he's an MVP candidate. So they started to get some comfort within Minnesota. Picking Philadelphia, understanding Philadelphia, took just a little bit of extra nuance. Understanding this wasn't a team incapable of passing the football. It was a legendary rush attack, and they leaned on it while having the best defense in the National Football League. But if they ever needed to throw the football at a high rate, they would have no problems because Jalen Hurts was one of the most efficient passers in football this year. Hurts 2 years ago, MVP candidate, probably wins it if there's no injury. This year had a better passer rating. People thought they were wildly different players. It wasn't spoon-fed. So you then get to Kansas City, right? And the Chiefs made analysis easy. Because if you actually were giving really, really, really thorough analysis, it was kind of tough to back KC because of all the underlying issues that they had. So just keep it simple. Mahomes, Andy Reid, 15-1, back-to-back champs. Well, what about the fact they couldn't extend on anybody? They win. What about the fact that Pat's numbers are nowhere near as good as the top 5 quarterbacks in the league this year? Again, he wants it that way. What? Why are we? I don't understand. So now what'll happen though, right? Because now the performance was so noteworthy and so undeniable, right? It was so noteworthy and so undeniable that now people will pay attention if Kansas City looks the same way next year, right? But what is funny is I think there will still now be some people kind of scrambling when it comes to picking the Super Bowl because who's a better quarterback? Cool, I got the better quarterback. Boom, I win, right? It didn't just lose. It blew up in your face. It blew up in your face because of how much better the Philadelphia Eagles were than the Kansas City Chiefs. At one point, apparently a scorching hot take. By the time the game was over, a unanimous, inarguable take, the Eagles were better than the Kansas City Chiefs. How does that pertain to the NBA? Again, at times we get ourselves copycat analysis. The Denver Nuggets win a championship, right? Well, it's all about depth. It's all about depth. So you don't want to have too many stars. You don't want to have too many stars. Okay, right? And that was a change because so often we would just be able to go, well, Cleveland has LeBron, or, oh, well, the Warriors they have Steph and Durant, so we'll just, right? So then people were kind of trying to figure it out, right? And what happened during last year's run was Luka Doncic made people comfortable again. Luka looked like the best player in the world, right? They beat Oklahoma City, who looked like a better basketball team. They beat Minnesota, who had beat Denver, which everybody was banking on getting the job done. So then we get to Boston, and people went, awesome, we'll keep this easy. Luka's the best player. They're going to win. That was ridiculous. I picked the Mavericks to win the Western Conference preseason. You know who saw it clearly? OK Dubs. Look, I get things wrong, but not the West last year, not the finals, because it was very obvious Boston was a much better basketball team. And they displayed that the whole way. They displayed it the entire way. But I feel as if when the Lakers made the move for Luka, this unfair, unforgivable, unimaginable move, people perhaps scarred from their pick of Dallas last year in the finals had them agreeing with Nico Harrison a little bit more than they realized. Look, the Lakers had to make the move, but they're not contenders this year. Listen, long term, this is good for LA, but they just told LeBron, you're not our priority. What? The Lakers just added a top 3 player in the NBA. What are you talking about? How would this not be good for the Lakers this year? I'm not following. What's going on here? What's happening? And last night was the beginning. As people are going to start to shift a little bit, because Luka Doncic, first game since Christmas, 23 minutes, all kinds of rusty and inefficient. Well, he and the LA Lakers absolutely ran the Utah Jazz off the court. And I know it is the Utah Jazz. I understand that. The Lakers sleptwalked to 132 points. Sleptwalked. And by the time we get to the postseason, the Lakers are going to very much so be viewed as one of those top 6 or so contenders. Don't forget the starting point, though, right? Where everybody said they just made a move that kneecapped them for this year, right? Don't forget the starting point. My only hope, though, is that when it gets time to start picking matchups in the postseason, the Lakers don't make everybody comfortable. Let's go easy. Luka, LeBron, they got the job done. Time will tell, but things are off to a fun start in LA. We'll be back with you right here. We're going to talk to Colby Dance from College Hoops.
Slow play, drum beat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scover when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I can't take Boston at minus 110. I don't see the value in it, right? You're getting minus money. If Boston were to turn around and become even money or plus 105 or plus 110, yeah, I can understand you want to take that. So because of the value at 5.5 to 1, I got to like the Knicks and their chances of coming out of the East.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams. Who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
Patino himself, in a clip that we just played, said basically the stats are not backing up the team's wins.
St. John's offensive glass. That's where a lot of opportunities for St. John's came from. St. John's does not shoot the basketball well. It might even be fair to say they shoot it poorly. They were 3 of 16 from deep last night. But it doesn't seem to matter to them.
Newswire. Only on Sports.
Live to right here. It is Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid. We're live with Colby Dant here. You can find him over on Twitter at @TheColbyD. And Colby, we got an incredible slate of college hoops tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I've been waiting for this. It's been since Saturday. So as a college basketball fanatic, man, glad that we got finally a loaded lineup here for a weeknight. Last night was a little bit of a snooze fest.
Yeah, I think we should start it off by taking a look at these big SEC games. If there's a great slate, it probably means the SEC is playing. They chew up so much of that AP top 25, which is where a lot of people will kind of check first to see who is in action. We have number 1 in action, number 2 in action, number 3 in action, 5 versus 15. Are you looking to bet any of those games involving the top of the conference?
Yeah, I am. I actually have played a few of these. I think every single one of I've played. I didn't set out to do that. I think Tennessee, playing Kentucky, they just played a couple, 10 days ago or 14 days ago, something like that. And Kentucky went into Knoxville, and really that series has kind of turned in, whether it's Calipari, whether it's Pope. The road team has had great success in that series. So I loaded up on Tennessee. I saw the number rise a little bit throughout the day, but Kentucky, I just wonder if their defense can play at that level. You saw Tennessee just go into Norman. I know it's a back-to-back road, but this is kind of a second-tier rivalry game. I think Tennessee is the better team. Pope's done a great job in year 1, but the Vols, I think, are a legit. Especially you love Rick Barnes in the regular season. So I'm laying the points there with the Vols in that second-tier rivalry game.
Yeah, I'm actually fascinated to see how that game plays out. I'll admit it's going to be a real hindsight is 2020 game for me if Kentucky wins, because I'll be like, all right, what are we doing here? Like, why won't they respect the Wildcats? Though I totally understand any play that comes in on Tennessee. It feels like a good spot for them. How do you view this Kentucky team? Because it's a program that I follow very closely, and you can tell it's a fan base that is occasionally confused because their wins are so phenomenal, but they're still a 500 team within the SEC right now. So it's just where are you at on UK?
Yeah, for long term for this season, I'm not very high on them. And look, Pope's done a great job to me, like coming in and giving the structure to build on. They brought in a bunch of transfers, though. I mean, a few BYU guys, a few other guys, and really like not necessarily top tier talent. And it shows there's a ceiling to me on how far they can go because of that. But I thought he's come in, he's organized things well, and the structure is there to build a winner for years to come. And to me, it's got more structure than they have with Calipari. Calipari was doing the one and done thing.
Yeah.
To me, they looked like an NBA team on offense. This, you're actually seeing a system. So I do think it's the answer long term for success. I just think this year there's a ceiling on like I think they're one of the actually, like, from a roster standpoint, I think they're one of the least talented teams in the SEC. Not bottom 2 or 3, but towards the back half of the SEC.
Like I will say, and I won't take up too much time with this, but they have what is rated as the second best offense in college, and there are seemingly 0, maybe first round picks, certainly no lottery picks on the team. That sounds like that'll be the first time that happens. I think it shows the power of Pope, and I wonder then if he can turn this season and be able to get even more, whether it's, the 5 stars or whatever it might be on the campus. So keep taking me through the card, Colby. Where else are we looking here on a Tuesday night?
Yeah, I'll stay in the SEC. I think Auburn has a little bit. I know they lost here the other day, and I was on the Florida Gators in that matchup, but I still like Vanderbilt here. Mark Byington he's kind of the Kurt Signetti of basketball, coming over from JMU, bringing a lot of his roster to Nashville, and Auburn has Alabama on deck, which is a huge rivalry game, despite it not being football. And Vanderbilt is a good team, and they play in that weird court where I always feel like it's like it's a sleepy opponent, and it's just a weird environment. There's nothing really like it in college hoops, but I took the doors and the points. I think Auburn will win the game, find a way to win that game, but there's a pretty big number for a Vanderbilt team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on. I think Vanderbilt's going to be an NCAA tournament team when it's all said and done. So I took the points with the doors there in that matchup. And another one is I going back to that Auburn-Florida game, I went with Mississippi State. Chris Jans has let me down in a lot of big games this year, but I think the way they defend the 3 can be an X factor for Florida. And Florida, after winning that game, I just think the human nature element of it. And another thing is Elijah Martin's out for this game. So I went with Mississippi State back-to-back away for the Gators to get it done in Stark Vegas there.
Yeah, I played some Bulldogs myself. It's one of those things where got the best of the number, cool. This Florida team has beaten me up throughout the season. I can't seem to get them right, so At least I got the best of the number. The result will be what it is. Cole, we only got about a minute or so left here. Anything else that you want to let the people know about here on this loaded Tuesday slate?
Yeah, I'll take you out to the Mountain West. I love the Utah State angle tonight, laying the points against Colorado State. Nico Medved's done a good job with the Rams, but they're still not the team to go into Logan. I think Utah State is due for a blowout win there, and I also like San Diego State in a revenge matchup against San Jose State, as the Aztecs are making that push to get back to the dance.
Yeah, the Mountain West tonight is. Again, it's not like it's the SWAC, but on a night like this, it feels very off the beaten path. So I'm sure people will appreciate getting in the mix there. Colby, look, we appreciate it, man. It's going to be a busy night of college basketball, but a lot of fun. Appreciate it, and best of luck.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Kevin. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, awesome stuff there. Again, that's Colby Dant. You can get him over on Twitter at the Colby D. Great stuff there. Following college basketball, all things college sports, really. For sure. And, we've got a 7 o'clock tip here for some great games in the SEC, as well as ranked action in the Big Ten with Michigan and Purdue. So that's the kind of slate that we're dealing with here on the college basketball board. We will reset that card and then also talk a little bit about the Kellen Moore news that came out today, what it means for the Saints, what it means for the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl favorites. Have an open slot at offensive coordinator. They probably go in-house. Is that the right move? We'll talk about it next here on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back at the right here on SportsGrid, Kevin Walsh, GameTime Decisions. At the top of the hour, we're going to do our Take 5 for NFL offseason questions. So let me reset the college basketball card first. Auburn team total over 83.5. I think we're getting a really nice number here on the number one offense in college basketball. Maybe Vanderbilt has a great night offensively. That's what it's going to take if they're going to pull off an upset here, hang in this game. I think Auburn will be dialed in. Second loss of the year. At home, I think you get a great effort tonight from Johnny Broom & Co. Took Miss State's money line, -102. Clipped a good number there. Always want to make sure you get the best of that number. Maybe you'll lay the -125. I know it's, of course, unlikely that this game is going to be, Miss State by 1, Miss State by 2, but you always want to get the best of the number there. When it comes to Mississippi State tonight, who's in a very good spot against the Gators, who just had the best road win, the best win of any team in all college basketball. They had not been that great on the road, so I think that kind of burns its brightest, if you will, against Florida. DePaul took them +17.5 tonight against Marquette. I don't think Marquette is going to be giving you their A+ game off a 3-game losing streak. I think that's what has this number looking the way that it does. So I'm going to take DePaul to hang with Marquette tonight, relatively at least, +17.5. Texas team total over 80.5 against Alabama. Really good spot for the Longhorns offense. I still think Bama's tricky for the books to cap. To be that good offensively and play that fast, it's a one-of-one team. And a lot of times when those games go over, they rocket ship over. Good spot for Texas. I think that game's a rocket ship. Different feel to me for Michigan State, Indiana, under the 148.5. Sparty defensively did not come out any level of focus against Oregon. I think they have that focus tonight against IU. I think that total's a tick too high. We play under the 148.5. Hunter Dickinson, 9+ boards. He's hit this in 2 straight after kind of a slump where he was missing this number, but landing 8 still. So been right around it. I think he hits it tonight against Colorado, as Kansas will be suffocating likely that Buffs offense there, providing plenty of rebound chances for Dickinson. BYU team total over the 67.5. They're going to play West Virginia in Big 12 play. I think BYU, having played Arizona, having played Cincinnati, is in line for a good offensive game. Now, maybe they don't defensively bring it, and the Mountaineers at home get the job done, but I think we're getting a good number on BYU, and I think we're getting a really nice number on Illinois, laying 6.5 to UCLA. UCLA has been atrocious when they are playing on the road in Big Ten play against non-teams that were in the Pac-12 last year. This all flipped around when they stayed out west, which is great. I don't think it carries over to Illinois. That's a very, very good Illinois basketball team. I know they're not ranked inside the top 25. Trust me, that's still one of the top 25 teams. This is, again, like via KenPom, actually a top 25 head-to-head matchup, realistically. Illinois is a tick better at 6.5. I'm going to lay that number there with the Illini. So Kellen Moore's on the move, right? Off-season questions, not making the cut, but relevant. The Super Bowl favorites don't have an offensive coordinator. The Philadelphia Eagles don't ever seem to get a break with this stuff. I know it's, rich people problems, woe is me, but a lot of teams, if they, can last in the postseason long enough, can hold on the coordinators. The Eagles, this group has made a run to 2 Super Bowls, and both first time they lost their offensive and defensive coordinator. It probably would have happened again if there were 2 jobs open instead of 1 by the time the Super Bowl ended, because Fangio probably would have been hired just off the heels of that defensive performance alone against the Chiefs. Now, for Philly, I was talking to Donnie this morning on Moneyline. The idea is Kevin Patullo, the passing game coordinator, will be elevated. I'm good with that because Patullo has been here on this staff the whole time. And if he is being elevated, there has to be a level of confidence, and I think it gives the Eagles an opportunity to provide Jalen some consistency, which is tempting. The thing is, again, the last time Philly went through this, and the offense wasn't the main problem, but it didn't. But when Philly lost Shane Steichen the next year, they obviously weren't as good. It's why all the coordinators were fired. I feel as if the Eagles next year will need to throw a lot more than they did this year for a number of reasons. I think Hurts is going to want to do it more. I think Sirianni will want to do it more. I think Brown will want to do it more. I don't think you can run Saquon that much 2 years in a row. You're probably not going to be leading as often by as much within football games. So I think it is uber important that they get this correct, as Hurts next year will likely have a lot more on his plate. There's a big question that also does surround the team that lost the Super Bowl. That's where we start next with our Take 5.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions right here on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh. College basketball board getting underway. We are dialed in, of course, and we will give you updates throughout. A lot of big games, especially in the SEC, starting underway, including that Auburn team total over and Miss State money line. But, of course, the National Football League is still front of mind for many with the Super Bowl on Sunday. And when the season ends, another season begins, and we're now in the offseason, and there's moves happening. Kellen Moore just becomes the head coach for the New Orleans Saints. The Eagles need an offensive coordinator, and those are big deals. I wanted to do a Take 5 for you guys today around the 5 biggest offseason questions, and there are a lot, so narrowing this down was difficult. And even as I get to control this, obviously we work as a team, number 5 feels way too low. Will Travis Kelce retire? That is a big deal because Travis Kelce is one of the biggest stars in this sport. If he does retire, it will be the lead story all day, all week when it happens, 100%. And Travis Kelce is a future first ballot Hall of Famer. You know, just being faced with the, oh, wow, Kelce's retired, makes this a big offseason question. One that I ultimately actually didn't think was going to be a thing. I didn't think that Kelce retiring was on the board because there are postseason records that he needed to play he needed to play more beyond this past Super Bowl if he wanted. Now, maybe only one more season, but he needed to play at least another year to give himself the receiving postseason triple crown at retirement, which is on the board for Kelce. The vibes coming off that field have made me wonder if Kelce has played his last game with KC. And if that is true, that is massive. Mahomes has not played without Travis Kelce. Maybe there was an injury, a game here or there. That is not just then losing your top guy. It is very different when your top guy is, again, a first ballot Hall of Famer, but more importantly, a tight end. How many great, and I mean great, tight ends are there? If you play fantasy football, you might say 2. And I don't even know if you would say Travis is one of them, or Brock Bowers and George Kittle, right? How will KC replace Kelce? Are they going to prioritize the position? Will they feel they can elevate Noah Gray? Do we see something happen in the draft? Do they double down on the wide receiver position? Is Xavier Worthy ready for that type of jump in targets? What does Rashee Rice look like coming back from injury? All of this is significantly more important if Travis retires. I'd say the reason that this checks in at 5 is, one, I still lean no, and it only impacts one team. Everything else can impact across the board. Number 4, where will T. Higgins land? This is now going to impact a number of teams, even if he returns to Cincinnati, which some believe is the favorite because Joe Burrow is now pushing behind the scenes for the Cincinnati Bengals to bring back T. Higgins, which is a nice gesture for Joe Burrow, but not, I don't believe, the smartest decision. And as somebody who could maybe be interested in betting on Cincinnati when we come to September, we're looking for a Super Bowl champion. They are better off putting their money in other areas of their roster. You have Joe Burrow, you have Jamar Chase. That has to be, to some degree, enough. You cannot do that and then pay T. Higgins and then be like, well, the defense, well, the offensive line. You can't. So for Cincinnati, to some degree, if the answer is them, that hurts them. It would also hurt a team like the Green Bay Packers, who many think could bring in a T. Higgins and become Jordan Love's true, clear-cut, number 1 alpha wide receiver. That would be a market mover if he lands with Green Bay. There could be some teams that are just trying to get a little bit better, right? Like a Denver Broncos who want to scale up a little bit. Maybe some of the lower-level teams that are hoping to crash into the playoff party with young quarterbacks, like the Carolina Panthers or the New England Patriots bring in a T. Higgins. Okay, that doesn't impact our Super Bowl market, but it impacts the markets, right? It impacts the perception around T. Higgins, where this guy now, instead of being the number 1, number 2 in this league, becomes a clear-cut number 1 out there. Where T. Higgins lands, number 4. Number 3, what will the Tennessee Titans do with the first overall draft pick? This is incredibly difficult to figure out because I am maybe right now buying too much into the smokescreens. The Tennessee Titans are not going to pass on generational talents. So maybe they view one of the quarterbacks as that, or they're talking Travis Hunter or even Abdul Carter. If they pass on quarterback, that's a ripple effect. All of a sudden now teams that we're not expecting to draft quarterback could be drafting quarterback, right? Or if supreme players come off the board and we only get 1 or 2 round 1 quarterbacks, now your contenders are not able to get the steals that they can occasionally get drafting in the 20 range. It is also important where if Tennessee passes on quarterback, they become a landing spot for those group of veteran QBs that are going to be out there looking for a job. Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, or maybe they have the money to pay a Sam Darnold or a Brock Purdy. Will the 49ers bring back Brock Purdy? To me is the second biggest offseason question. You could certainly argue it is number 1. It is, for me, only number 2. And that's because number 1's a huge deal. If the 49ers bring back Brock Purdy, that is the expectation. The idea is Purdy, and we're having probably some technical difficulties here, but we're talking Brock Purdy now, okay? If they bring back Brock Purdy, things are fine, right? If they bring Purdy back, then it'll be kind of normal operations, if you will, right? You might buy in, you might not get there, but I am fascinated in what happens if they don't. How much money does it free up? Can they then go out and make splashes that people were not expecting? Who in the world is the quarterback? This is a 49er team that made a Super Bowl with Garoppolo and were honest with themselves and said, that's not good enough. Now, the Trey Lance move didn't work, and maybe they are now gun-shy with how badly that went. But if they are honest with themselves, Brock Purdy is not a $60 million man. I like Brock Purdy. I now have 2 years in a row bet on him to win a league's MVP, but he's not a $60 million man. And as the Niners are going to be trading Deebo Samuel and who knows what other sacrifices roster-wise they'll need to make, maybe making one on Brock Purdy could make life a little bit easier for them. Maybe it would free them up to make the biggest move of the offseason, and to me, the biggest offseason question: where will Myles Garrett be traded? My NBA brain is not here for the Browns say they're not moving him. Cute, cool, don't care. Miami said they weren't trading Jimmy Butler. He's on the Warriors. Every team Harden ever played for said they weren't trading him, and he got out of town every time. So, Myles, if you're struggling, call up some of your NBA friends. They'll help you figure this out. And why this is such a big deal is Myles Garrett is not a good player. Heck, I don't know if Myles Garrett is a great player. Myles Garrett, he looks like an all-time great player. Maybe the best player on his side of the field is up for grabs. And he doesn't want to leave Cleveland over a contract dispute. The Browns will pay him all the money in the world. He wants to win Super Bowls. And again, if the NBA's taught us anything, Myles Garrett is not going to get traded to the New York Giants or the Arizona Cardinals. With respect. He's going to go to the Lions or the Eagles or the Commanders or the 49ers. And that could get us a new Super Bowl favorite. We're to talk more NFL with Brady Cannon next right here on SportsGrid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
With you right here on GameTime Decisions. Auburn started the game on a 15-0 run. Not bad. Not bad. We'll keep our eye on that college basketball slate, but we're going to talk a little more NFL here. We'll get into some golf as well on this Tuesday. You know what that means. Brady Cannon is here with us on GameTime Decisions. Brady, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend.
I mean, we're all the way 2 days removed from the NFL season. Why aren't we talking about it already? I mean, we've had what, 36 hours to kind of swallow. Here we go again. The NFL cycle never ends.
It does not. It doesn't. And we'll do a little rehashing, and then we can put our eyes forward a little bit. It was one of those things, Brady, for me, the Super Bowl, it was kind of boom or bust, right? Either I was going to end up as right as ever or as wrong as ever. Lucky for me, or not lucky. I don't know. But it went how I was hoping and how I thought it would. I'm curious for you, what was the biggest takeaway watching Super Bowl 59?
I loved the result. I think most of all, it was kind of what I was clamoring for the last 2 seasons, that the Chiefs finally were exposed. Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are probably the greatest 1-2 or the greatest 2 at their position, so to speak, in the world. But the last 2 years, I don't think the rest of the team was that good. They shouldn't have even made the Super Bowl last year, let alone win it. They should have probably lost 3 different times in the playoffs last year. And no one was just up to the task. They just kept finding ways to get it done. And then this year, I thought their team was probably not even as good as the year prior, yet they were 16-2 or whatever. It's 15-1. I don't count week 18, whatever. And I thought one of the worst games. I mean, they looked kind of like the Chiefs looked all year in that win over the Houston Texans. And I said, boy, if they would have played anybody else in that game, they would have lost. And then they showed up against the Bills, and I think probably played their best game of the entire season. They looked absolutely legit in that game, and then, like I say, they were exposed by the clearly better team. The Niners were the better team last year, but couldn't pull it off. The Eagles finally pulled it off and were able to overcome that great coach and that great quarterback. And I was most happy to see that it felt like justice was served. Like, gosh, finally, this team is not getting away by the skin of their teeth and that horseshoe up there, what. And that's what I enjoyed. And I've always liked Jalen Hurts. I think he's a class act. I like the competitor he is. He seems humble. And, I grew up a Niners fan. I've kind of always liked the Eagles too. It's not that I was, necessarily a big fan of theirs, more anti-Kansas City like a lot of people. But yeah, I'm really happy for Jalen Hurts. He's definitely a guy that I like on that side.
Yeah, I think one thing that, again, there was a million things that were satisfying, but it showed that what you and I do isn't useless, because Kansas City wasn't better than a lot of these teams. And if they just kept winning, right? The thing was, this was the worst Chiefs team of the run, and this Eagles team was, I believe, and I know for many this will be a bridge too far, one of the best teams of all time. That's how good I think they were. When you start to line up who they had, position by position, player by player, I think that's really where they are. And, everybody can make numbers and make games how they want. Occasionally, I like to try to put odds makers against one another. And one thing I said is, these teams played 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. Philly was favored. This Eagles team was much better than the Eagles team from 2 years ago, and this Chiefs team was much worse than the Chiefs team from 2 years ago, and yet Kansas City was favored. And again, we didn't make a big stink about it because it wasn't as if Philly was going to lay a touchdown within the game, and again, they could have laid 14. It wouldn't have made a single difference. But I think we saw Kansas City, to some degree, with their win over Buffalo, kind of break the dam of just make them favorites, even if the number's wrong. I spoke to somebody, Brady, out in New Orleans, who told me they made the game Philly -3 and wasn't playing the side for the full game.
Wow.
Because that is how much Kansas City, even people who take the time to do this, had broke them.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. And I think we all fought that mental battle. I know I did. I made Philadelphia a 1-point favorite. And I had to finally just trust my numbers and get that, storyline out of my head that says, boy, but I can't, go against this guy and that coach who always find a way to get it done. And what am I going to do? And, and obviously you have 2 weeks to stew over it, right? The numbers, as soon as the matchup was made, I had these numbers from, the entire season, the postseason. I did a little bit of arithmetic and bang, okay, Philly should be a 1-point favorite. And then you sit there and stew over it for 2 weeks. And finally, about 3 or 4 days before the game, I said, forget about it. I'm going to bet the Eagles. I've listened to enough people that I respect. I think they're the better team. My numbers tell me the better team. And I'm just going to have to cast aside this, but Mahomes and Reed will find a way. And I think a lot of people that landed on the Chiefs were buying into that. They didn't necessarily have numbers that told them the Chiefs were better. I think they were just going on, you got to beat the champs to become the champs. And, well, they did. So I was thankful that I landed on that side. That was my bet, taking the Eagles plus 1.5. On the props, I kind of lost some, won some. But, no, I didn't expect the game to play out the way it did. It was interesting. I think the Eagles it was all about execution. They did exactly what they were trying to do. And I think there was probably a point in that game where they kind of looked at each other and went, guys, this is really easy. That other team over there is not putting up much of a fight. And everybody has an off night. The Chiefs picked a real bad night to have an off night. But, the line of scrimmage was no contest. Yeah. So it was good to see that. Like I say, it was refreshing to see the Dragon finally slayed that you and I and a lot of other people have felt was a little bit fraudulent. Not at the top with the coach and the QB. Not going to go there, but that team wasn't that good for the past couple of years, as good as their record would suggest or their accomplishments would suggest.
Yeah, and I think one of the ironic things is betting Kansas City, you were trying to cat mentality of they're battle-tested, they know they're going to win. And it actually turns out the mentality was the Philadelphia Eagles had no interest in winning that game and every interest in absolutely destroying the gentleman in front of them, and that is exactly what they did. We'll talk more with Brady Cannon next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're back right here on Game Time Decisions. I got to tell you, man, the things you will find on Twitter. Kellen Moore today announces the Saints head coach. Kellen Moore once played Derek Carr in college. Boise State won that game 57-0.
7. So I guess, unless I'm getting duped here, which would also be funny and shame on me, I guess they'll have plenty to talk about in that locker room. We are here with Brady Cannon. I want to ask you this, Brady, because the 49ers situation is one that you and I have actually talked about throughout a lot of the season. We just did our Take 5 on big NFL offseason questions. I do not think that Brock Purdy is a bad quarterback. I think he's comfortably better than Jimmy Garoppolo. I understand that letting him go is risky. I, though, am not the general manager of the Niners, but they should have an idea of, if we don't use the money on Brock, 1, who's our quarterback? 2, what do we get to use the money on? I have a feeling that they would be able to answer those questions well enough that the risk of letting Brock Purdy is worth it. If you, as somebody who is willing to back the Niners, root for the Niners, whatever, do you feel that that is too risky to let Brock Purdy go, and they should be giving him ultimately whatever the number is going to take to get him to stay in that building?
I think they should keep him. I think he gives them a better chance to win a Super Bowl than any of the other options out there. You know, Kirk Cousins maybe is an option, Sam Darnold, you know, a lot of those guys. Darnold, of course, was with the 49ers. Cousins was a Kyle Shanahan guy, you know, and I don't think the Niners want to go there, and I don't think they should go there. I think Purdy is absolutely better than those guys. I'd rather have Brock Purdy than Dak Prescott. I think, you know, the Niners had a down year. They were really beaten up. They're the Super Bowl loser. That's another thing I can't wait for, Kevin, to bet against the Chiefs as a Super Bowl loser next year. The Niners were the Super Bowl loser. You know, they suffer that hangover all year long, and a lot of times that comes with injuries and everything. And that's the second time it's happened to San Francisco. We saw it the last time they lost in the Super Bowl to the Chiefs. So, you know, Brock Purdy kind of, I think, he didn't look as good as he had the year prior because the team wasn't as good. I think he still had a very good year and showed that he is a pretty darn good player. I would say he's probably a top 10 quarterback in this league. And no, I don't really think he looks the part of $60 million. And maybe he's the type of guy that understands, because the Niners have a lot of guys they're going to have to pay. They're probably going to lose a lot of guys. They're probably going to have to trade guys. You know, Debo's already been talked about, what have you. I believe Fred Warner, you know, there's a lot of big names on that team that are either near or at the end of their contracts. So maybe Purdy understands, and this would be in a perfect world, that he'll sign for less money to give the Niners some more room to keep some of these pieces around him. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but that would be ideal. Otherwise, I think you're going to have to pay him whatever it is, 50. Maybe they can get away with that, and you got to keep him. That's today's NFL. Does he deserve more than a lot of these guys in the league? No, I don't think so. But you know, for me, he's in the top 10 and gives them the best chance going forward.
Yeah, and I will say this, them paying Brock Purdy is not Daniel Jones level malpractice.
Right.
But I'm less excited. But maybe that's just because I like change occasionally when it comes to player movement and things like that, and it can be fun to mix it up. Brady, let me ask you this before we let you get out of here. The golf world, about to start picking up, if I'm not mistaken. The Genesis this week, Scotty, a lot of big names on tour.
Yeah, and because of the fires in Pacific Palisades, where Riviera Country Club is, we're going back to Torrey Pines. We're not going to play Riviera. We're going back to Torrey Pines, where they hold the Farmers Insurance Open. And yeah, this time we've got all the luminaries, Rory, Scotty, Morikawa. I played Morikawa at 18-1. I took Tommy Fleetwood at 47-1. I took Maverick McNeely at 52-1. I took Akshay Bhatia at 78-1. This kid is a really young, budding star. I think he's going to win again and win sometime soon. And then I went with Gary Woodland. This will be my third time this year on Gary Woodland. He's playing really, really well. This is his type of golf course. He's done well here before. I took him at 110-1. And 3 live selections. We've got another live event in Australia, Kev. I took Dean Burmester at 25-1, Sergio Garcia at 25-1, and Sebastian Munoz at 33-1. We'll see if we can get one down under.
All right, man, you're not getting better than that. Just load it up. I really appreciate it. It is always fun.
It's golf season, buddy. I'll talk to you soon over the weekend.
You can see it setting in. That is awesome, Brady. Appreciate it as always. We'll be right back here on Game Time Decisions.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're live with you right here on SportsGrid. It's a Tuesday night. And, look, we've gone through a couple of big picture items early. Vanderbilt's kind of crawled back in. Let me get you some of the updated numbers here on the live board before we move forward. Kentucky's up 1. That total's plummeted. And I liked under, but it is what it is. That number's 2.5 right now, still favoring Tennessee. Miss State's 2.5 live, up 2. Iowa State trailing UCF right now, still a 4.5-point favorite. Pick between Michigan and Purdue, that game's tracking over. And Auburn is up to a 10.5-point favorite, 156.5 total, so kind of in range and on pace from where some of the things were pre-game. And so we kind of hit on it quickly. The Lakers and, if there's any correlations, I guess, within the NBA, the Lakers have one more game to go before the All-Star break, and they're actually going to play the Utah Jazz again. They're going to go to Utah. The Lakers' next 10 games, so from now until March 6th, they are on the road 3 times. Utah, Portland, and at Denver. Now, there'll be a dog at Denver, assuming health, right? But you're looking at a favorite against Utah and Portland. Bear with me. They're home games in that run. Charlotte, Dallas, Minnesota, 2 straight against the Clippers, New Orleans, and the Knicks. How many games within the next 10 games for this team are they going to be an underdog? 3 road games, 7 home games. The road games at Utah, at Portland, at Denver, assuming health, just at Denver. The home games, Charlotte, come on. Dallas, who just got even more injury news. Gafford's now out 2 weeks. Look, I'm still sitting on some Mavericks tickets and things like that. All of a sudden you pick your head up and everybody's injured in Dallas, and it's I don't know, maybe your training staff's not that good. The Mavericks fans don't need it to pour on, but this couldn't be going worse. I don't know. The NBA might have to step in. Jason Kidd skipping press conferences. It's not going great. It's not going great. Home against Minnesota, the season that they've been having, doubt it. 2 straight against the Clippers. It'll be short numbers. I don't think they're a dog. Pels, no chance. Knicks, at that point, we'll see. We'll see how the prior 9 games go. But the Lakers are currently on a ridiculous run as is. The Lakers have won 6 games in a row, and the Lakers have won 10 of their last 11. If you kind of even move out, they've won 12 of the last 14 games that they've played. 12 of their last 14, and look like they are going to be favored to win 9 of their next 10 games. Some short numbers. But if the Lakers take that and they win 7 of the 10, right? Which is probably a reasonable expectation. That would mean that they will have won 19 of 24 games. That means that they will sit there at 39 and 23. 22. 39 and 22 is what the Lakers will set at if they win 7 of their next 10, where they will likely be favorites in all but one of the games. That's a title contender. Clear cut, point blank, obvious. This is just a fascinating thing. And I am so drawn to it for obvious reasons. I'm a LeBron guy. I've been a Luka guy. I had preseason Mavs tickets. Traded them in for, well, not trade. I mean, I have them, but I now have the Laker tickets. But I think if you've heard me talk hoops, you know my thoughts on LeBron, but I think you also know where I'm at on Luka. And the initial reaction that we heard from folks, Lakers aren't a real contender this year. That's what we heard. Well, game number 1, they looked amazing. And you can say, if you want, because I get it, it is totally fine to say, well, it was Utah. The Lakers were up 25 points in the first half. At the end of the half, the score was 72-47. When great teams play really bad teams, that's what they do, and this was their first game together. Reeves, again, I haven't done this yet because, we've got a lot going on. In terms of third options, Austin Reeves ranks where in the NBA now? Behind, I don't know, whoever Boston's third option is. You can do two-way value and things like that. Austin Reeves or Julius Randle. Probably Reeves at this point. You take, who's the third guy on OKC? J-Dub or Chet? You'd probably take that over Reeves. Kind of doing this now as we're sitting here, which is fine. Denver's third. Aaron Gordon, or is it Porter Jr.? It's a conversation, probably. Probably leans Denver. Where else am I forgetting? What am I skipping over? Paul George? Come on. That's not PG's not showing up all year. Beal? I can't get there. You want to do DeMar DeRozan with Sacramento? I don't even know the pecking order of Sacramento. I'm also not sure it's relevant, but it's like I'm trying to entertain the whole league. Where does Austin Reeves sit in terms of third best guy? Here's why that's crazy. LeBron's the second best guy. That's obviously the best number 2 in the league. And Luka is, at least for me, coming into the season, the third best player in basketball. So, how many better number 1s do you have? 2. Look, man, it's not a roster built in a traditional sense because they made the move in the middle of the year and they never could have prepared for it, and then made a move to try and fill out the roster, and it fell through with the Mark Williams situation. But I think what that means is we know there's room for improvement for the Lakers down the road. It does not mean that this group does not have the chance to be something special. Like we are, again, when we were in the middle of the NFL season, Kev, who do you like to win the Super Bowl? Birds. Pay attention. The NBA, right? I don't know, man. Because we just went through a deadline where we started sending out stars left, right, and center. And a lot of things changed. So we got to keep our eyes on it. And you know we will. We'll put our eyes back on that college board next year. It's Game Time Decisions.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back right here on SportsGrid, Game Time Decisions on this Tuesday night. And Man, oh man, we've got ourselves a college basketball board right now with a lot of good action. Close early, which is nice. Auburn only up by 5. Florida's actually stormed back, up 4 now. UK up 4. Purdue up 7. Purdue is kind of surging, right? A win here, I imagine they go to favorites to win the Big Ten. They still have a game with Michigan State left. It is on the road. Let's see how tough that Sparty schedule is. Sparty still has 2 dances with Michigan, at Maryland, at Iowa, home against Wisconsin, at Illinois. Yeah. A win here, Purdue's going to be favored to win the Big Ten. Which means what? Favored for a 1 seed? You think? Let's check in bracket matrix and see what we're getting here. Let's see what we got. And then we'll expand on some stuff for you in a minute here. Purdue on a 2 line right now. Auburn, Duke, Bama, Tennessee on the 1. Interesting. All right, let's zoom out. We did our NFL Take 5 on off-season questions. And when you take a look at the Travis Kelce question of will he retire or not? Again, if I had to bet right now, even money either way, I would say no, because I didn't think he would retire going into the game. I didn't feel that the result made a difference. For me, the postseason all-time Triple Crown is out there. He was not going to be able to get it in the Super Bowl, meaning it was just not possible. Not the Eagles were going to stop him from getting it. It wasn't on the board. Maybe those things don't matter to him. Here's the thing. No. Travis Kelce has kind of hit a point in his life where none of it has to matter to him. He's set forever. He's all good. First ballot Hall of Fame. He and his brother will both be there one day. So they're all good. If Travis retires, that is step 1 in a very important offseason for Kansas City, where they have to look in the mirror if they want to get back to the Super Bowl. Because I can't imagine that front office, that coaching staff, that organization is so well ran, thinks to themselves, no, it's awesome we can't blow anyone out. It's awesome that our supernova quarterback no longer puts up the statistics that would even get him a seat in the Pro Bowl.
Whoa.
Because that's what happens.
What?
And let's bring in Dave Sharapan, the Sportsbook Consig, here with us on this Tuesday night. Dave, great to have you.
Hi, Kev.
My thing with Mahomes, and I want people to understand, I am bringing this up because it should be such a talking point, but everybody was scared to because they kept winning. Mahomes statistically in the regular season falling back. But last year was all good. They won the Super Bowl. We shouldn't ask questions. And then this year, had they won that game, then okay, never mind. Mahomes has NBA'd the NFL. He isn't trying. And I'm wrong. Nope. He was trying, and things have not been operating as smoothly. Okay. And I think it's one of the more fascinating things when we think about next year's Super Bowl, next year's regular season MVP, right? You know, they rush, they throw the market up. And Mahomes is not only not the favorite, he's comfortably not the favorite, in my opinion. Plus 450 right. Lamar, plus 500 Josh Allen, plus 600 Joe Burrow, plus 800 Mahomes. I mean, there's a real gap there when you look at Pat and the other 3 quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, at this point, if it was us, I'd look over to you in the room and say, let's make him double digits. He's not winning the MVP. He's not winning the MVP next year. They got a lot of questions. They got a lot of things to fix. As much as they were 15-2 in the regular season and in the Super Bowl, I don't think they feel close to, Philadelphia and what they did. And everybody in the AFC arguably is getting better. So, right. Yeah, I think they got a lot of questions. I'd say let's make them 10 or 12 and take some bets on them and let people take their shots.
Yeah, I think here's the thing, right? I think within this moment, it doesn't feel like it. The record could get messed up. We don't know. Their offseason's going to really make a difference on how I feel about that, right? About do we go into the year?
You just said it. It's on the Take 5 questions.
Yeah.
I don't think he's retiring. If he doesn't retire, does that change anything? I think you have to assume he's not retiring.
Let me say
So
this.
that's the first question. Then what?
As respectfully as possible, if Kelsey retired, I am more likely to bet him Mahomes to win MVP than if he comes back.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm more because to me, that then forces them into some change. We can't just keep doing check down Charlie with the consensus best quarterback in football, right?
Okay.
Or we can't do. I don't know what they're doing. They can't then break the huddle. They didn't call a play. They just thought Travis would spin in circles until he was open. I don't know what they're doing, right? And I also think it'll help the narrative a little bit. If Travis retires and he goes out there and puts up some great numbers, I think that would help. I do. The big question, and the one from the Take 5, the Take 5 that I wanted to ask you, Dave, is if Myles Garrett goes to certain teams, what would that do to a number? I'll ask you the big one. I know you're going to respond. I know this is, no, he's not going there, but just if Myles Garrett ends up on the Philadelphia Eagles, right now they are plus 600 to win a Super Bowl. What do you do with that number?
Come on. I mean, that's too much.
I know.
That can't be. That would be great for the Eagles. My goodness. Wow. That would really help. That would solidify that number. I mean, we just tighten that up. We wouldn't have to worry about anything. I'm not going to move it because he's going there, but I'm not going to move it away. We might have to worry. The first move is down, making it less if he goes there. I don't know. You think he's going to the Bills? If he goes to the Bills, that help the Bills?
Yeah, it would help the Bills. So I think Myles Garrett, to me, while he's the biggest question of the offseason, especially for what we do, is Myles Garrett has the ability to make a new Super Bowl favorite. That's, I think, the strength of Myles Garrett if he lands on a Detroit Lions, for example. We're here with the Consig on a Tuesday night. We'll be right back.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're here with Dave Sharapan, who's going to be live on In-Game Live coming up in just a moment on this Tuesday night. Dave, I do want to ask you, before we get to tonight's card, which is loaded with college basketball. We saw something that I think for you and I was probably a little bit of a surprise because of how we typically discuss the Lakers in big numbers. Ooh. They laid 12.5 last night.
Yeah.
And they covered the entire game. Yeah. That is not how that usually goes. Heck, up 25 at the half. It's like, ooh, this game's just getting good. Is usually how that goes. Luka didn't even play in the fourth quarter. That's how well that went. That wasn't even a minutes restriction thing. Like, he had a minutes restriction of 30-ish minutes. Basically, if it was close, he was going to play like 35 minutes.
Correct.
I don't know. It's one game. But again, I think you and I would, like, if they played a good team, close, tight, and won by 4, laying 2.5, okay. Cover 12.5 the whole way? I don't know. You had my attention there a little bit.
Had my attention. I mean, I came on here yesterday. I broke out all the Lakers stuff. I got new Lakers stuff. I'm ready. This is fun. They're back. Forget about it. Was talking about it today. Stopped down at the book and said, who you got in the Western Conference? I said it might be time. I mean, we're a little bit late, but if you haven't moved it yet, you better move it because I don't know. Did you see the full court pass? I mean, Luka's finding everybody. He dribbled, drive, and kick. I mean, these guys were having open shots. They shot, I think I thought, what did they shoot, 14 to 22 from 3? I'm like, guys make guys better. Guys that are already good and then make guys better. Rejuvenated the big man.
He's running around like a kid. It's a joke.
That's what I'm saying. This is, you know, it's time. You got to stay up late. You're going to be up late anyway. You're going to be watching Laker games. They're going to cover. Luka props are going to go over. Give him a couple more minutes. Assist number is going to be good. This is Luka's, I don't know, the smile on his face. The whole crowd wearing the T-shirts. I'm in. J-Dub.
You know what?
I said to a guy today, if they're playing OKC, the series price is not as high as it would have been before Luka, and it's a lot closer than it was.
Yeah,
right
1,000,000%. And I'll tell you what, Dave, because it's a Tuesday night, let me give the people the take I haven't given them yet. Because it's the opposite of all the other stuff we're hearing around. What does Luka going to the Lakers mean?
Where's my glasses?
People heard, hey, LeBron, how do you feel? You're taking a back seat. Ooh, LeBron's got to be upset. No. Look around. LeBron respects Luka a lot, and LeBron, real smart, might look around and go, yeah, I ain't retiring, man. We ain't going nowhere. You're going to have to deal with another half decade of this. I'll be out there So, Dave, I thought that this was the second to last season. I thought without a shadow of a doubt next year was the last year. 23rd season. Nobody's played 23rd year. The All-Star game is in L.A. He wears number 23. It was all so obvious. Like, I'll be honest with you. You know I'm nuts. Beat reporters have been tweeting that out. It's been bothering me to no end. It's like, oh, yeah, cool. I've been saying that here on SportsGrid for years. Right? Thanks for waking up. What source did you call? Me? Cut it out. Luka showing up? I don't know. I don't know. We might be able to stick around here a little while now. I don't know. I like what I'm seeing, Dave. I like what I'm seeing. You want to let us know any college game late night you're going to be dialed in on?
Got my Penn State hat on. Penn State's playing at USC tonight. Little late night action for you guys back east. It's 4.5. It's dead under. Just let you know right now on that. There's some really good SEC games going on right now. Me and Wetzel will be all over it. NBA card's a little bit light. Memphis and Phoenix is a late night game. K-Dub, I know you love games with juice. Did you see that total? It's his highest total maybe of the season, close to 250.
Which game is that?
Memphis and Phoenix, 247.5 or 248.5. Hello.
Whoa. They try to sneak that by me. If I'm not mistaken, KD's trying to get to 30,000 in this game.
He might get to 40,000 in this game. Whoa. I got to get home to get a couple of extra. I might have to get a couple of extra picks in here on a Tuesday night. In-game live is next. I'll see you all on Thursday on Game Time Decisions.